Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to the Conscious Eating Evolution series. I'm Karina, Conscious Eating Catalyst and Soul Relationship Guide, and have created this series to give you a more holistic overview around the transformative power of food, so you feel more enabled and empowered to make healthier choices for yourself and this planet. And today we're going to look into how we can heal autoimmune disease with Dr. Brooke Goldner, who is a board-certified medical doctor and the author of 2 best-selling books, Goodbye Lupus and Green Smoothie Recipes to Kickstart Your Health and Healing. She has been featured on multiple documentaries, TV and radio shows, and on the front cover of Vegan Health and Fitness magazine, including the recent cover of Fit Over 40. She's a regular contributor to T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies, and she's featured in the Journal of Disease Reversal, Reversing Lupus in Herself, as well as multiple case studies in reversing end-stage kidney failure with her hyper-nourishing nutrition protocol. Hello, Dr. Brooke Goldner. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, so I would really love you to share a little bit more about yourself and what actually led you to having food as such a big component of your medical practice.
That's a huge question to start with. Okay, so as you mentioned, I'm a board-certified medical doctor, but before I was a doctor, I was a patient. So I was diagnosed with something called lupus at 16 years old. And at 16, I had arthritis, I had rashes, fatigue, migraines, and I had stage 4 kidney failure. And so at that age, I was told, you need to go on aggressive treatments, chemotherapy, steroids, or within 6 months, you'll be dead, or dialysis is best bet. So from a young age, I was a part of the medical world, but on the other side. And I had to learn how to juggle my own happiness and my ability to achieve things in my life, to do well in school, to have relationships, and all of those things while also battling a very life-threatening illness. And I was very lucky that I had great doctors, but it was very, very toxic and difficult medications. I had chemotherapy for 2 years. So from 16 to 18, when most people are worrying about prom, I'm trying to figure out how I can study for my exams and still get my chemotherapy in, because after chemo, I'm going to be puking and I won't want to study. And so that was, kind of how I did things. And I had an amazing, amazing family who was really supportive. My family as Holocaust survivors came to this country so we could have a better life. And actually, I just came back from a trip to Poland, so it's fresh in my mind, where I got to see the concentration camps and the ghettos where they survived. Not everybody survived, where the ones who led to me did. So I was raised very much that, every day you wake up is a lucky day. Even if you're sick, even if you have struggles, even if you're poor, you're here. And that really helped me get through all of that. And I teach that to my patients today, that your illness doesn't define your life. You can choose to look for the good, and you can be grateful for life even with illness, and find a way to be happy even when you're under duress or stress. So I was very lucky in that way. And I managed to not only get through it all, but I graduated high school on time at the top of my class, got a scholarship to Carnegie Mellon, which was my first choice, even made it all the way to medical school. My doctors didn't want me to go to medical school. They said it was high stress, and I'm supposed to avoid stress. When you're sick, you avoid stress, get enough sleep, right? Avoid sunlight. Avoiding sunlight's easy when you're in medical school because you don't have free time to go out. But stress and sleep are really difficult, right? So I actually got sick again in medical school, and I started having mini strokes. I was sending blood clots into my brain, and I collapsed in one of the clinics. And, it was a difficult path, but I felt like, none of us really know how much time we have. And the best thing we can do is have purpose, and to live with purpose and try to do some good in this world with whatever time we had. And so I just kept pushing forward, and I was able to become a doctor, and I was happy. I was like, okay, however long I get to do this, it's great, because I can help people and be a part of people's lives, and whatever happens to me, or however long I can do this, it will be enough. I knew I could never have children. I was told that was I wouldn't survive the pregnancy, or the child would die before I could give birth, and I would probably be handicapped by my 40s. Now, right around the time that I graduated medical school is about 2 months before I met my future husband, Thomas Tadlock. So he's also a best-selling author of a book called Miracle Metabolism. He's a fitness guy. He's totally gorgeous. And I fell in love with him like at first sight. You're giggling because right? He's like, and I met him, and we fell in love immediately. It was, within a month he was talking to me about getting married. And so I had to have this conversation with this beautiful, amazing man that I'm not going to live a long life. I can't have children. You're going to have to take care of me before I die young. That's not really what you want to sign up for at 28 normally. And his response was, I'd rather live a short life with you than a lifetime with anybody else. I just want you to have the best life you could ever have.
Just got chills.
And I still cry when I tell that story. And we've been married 15 years. But I said, okay, let's get married. It was so exciting. So it felt like everything, I'd finally gotten my first choice residency, which was at UCLA, Harvard UCLA in Torrance, California. And so I was moving from gloomy Pittsburgh to sunny California, and I was in love, and I was just so excited for my life. And I was still sick. I had to take injections every day into my stomach because of the blood clots. If I didn't get enough sleep, I'd get arthritis or migraines. But I was happy, I had so much. And happy to the point that my residency director pulled me aside because I wasn't appropriately exhausted and depressed like all the other residents. I was just kind of smiling, like, I was just happy to be here. That's my motto. I'm happy to be here. But I was still sick. And when we were discussing the wedding, we decided we wanted to elope to Maui and just us and like our best friends and our parents, just to celebrate our love for each other. And so Maui is a place where you wear a lot of bathing suits, and and I was getting ready for my wedding, and I had gained a lot of weight through my medical training. Eating at hospitals is the best way to be sick and fat, hands down, right? But when you wear a white coat, it covers a lot. Like you can but that's not a bikini, and that's not a mermaid wedding dress either. So I asked my husband to train me. He was already a famous trainer. He was working with people on MTV, and I said, I want to look like the MTV people. So at the time he was using something this was 14 years ago. So at the time it was kind of like what paleo is now. It was a lot of vegetables, no dairy, no processed foods, and then free range meat. But I'd been vegetarian since I was 12 because I loved animals. I still ate tons of dairy and eggs every single day. I ate cheese and eggs every single day, and a lot of processed crap. But I didn't eat meat. So he said, you got to get rid of all that saturated fat. So the eggs and the cheese and all that were gone. But I wasn't going to eat meat. So I ate some tofu or things like that instead, and ate all the other stuff, tons of raw vegetables, omega-3s, drank tons of water. I never drank water. I was a doctor. If you drink, it should have caffeine. Like, who drinks water, right? It just, so I did all these things, and I started feeling really good really fast. Within a matter of weeks, I noticed I didn't have aches and pains. I had tons of energy. I was working 30-hour shifts at the hospital and going to the gym afterwards. People who didn't have lupus don't do that. They work 30-hour shift and they collapse. But I felt really good, but I didn't attribute it to my diet. I didn't know. I just felt good, and I figured I'll just do what I'm doing. And right before I left for my wedding, it was about 3.5 months after I changed my diet, I went and had my labs drawn. And this was a new doctor in California. All my previous labs were done in Pennsylvania, and all my markers for lupus were negative. For the first time in my life. I mean, I had at that point had lupus for 12 years. So it wasn't like I got sick and then I got better. It was 12 years of fighting for my life through kidney failure and blood clots and all this stuff. And everything was negative. There was no blood clots. There was no lupus antibodies. Everything was reversed. And the only thing that I had was the blood clot antibodies were in the moderate range. Like, you wouldn't consider them positive, but they weren't as low as normal. But you would never medicate with that for someone for that unless they'd had many strokes. So that was kind of weird, like what just happened. And so my doctor didn't know. He thought maybe there was a lab error, like, because it doesn't happen that your labs just change after all those years. So he said, enjoy your wedding, come back, we'll retest everything. So I did that. I enjoyed my wedding. I came back, I got tests again, and all the markers were completely negative. Those blood clot antibodies were totally in normal range. And my cholesterol that I was told was genetically high was now normal, and we didn't know what the heck happened. And the funny thing is, I kept taking my meds for a year after this happened, because according to Western medicine, you take those meds for life. You don't have a stroke or a mini stroke and then just stop blood thinners. You don't, people with, I was just talking to someone with lupus right before I saw you. I do all my appointments over Skype or online. And she was saying, and she's a doctor herself, and she goes, I'm afraid to start the medicine because it means I'll have to take it for life. I said, don't listen to the programming they gave us. If you're healthy, you can stop it. But I didn't believe it myself. And a year of being healthy, I finally asked my doctor why I'm still taking my medicine. And he said, you're treating my anxiety because I'm scared to take you off of it. I said, okay, well, that's not a good reason.
No.
So I continued to be super healthy and still didn't realize lupus was gone because it'd been in my life so long. I just, maybe it's remission. Even though in remission, your tests are still positive, you just feel better. It just didn't cross my mind, you know, because it's incurable according to Western medicine. 4 years later, I'm still healthy. I feel amazing. And I decided to do the thing I was told I should never do, which is get pregnant. Everyone was really scared, but I knew I was healthy. I could feel I was healthy and I had a healthy pregnancy. And they said that lupus is going to come back when you're pregnant. It didn't come back. Lupus is going to come back when you give birth. It didn't come back. And I had to have a C-section because my son was breech, and I was fine. In fact, I was out of the hospital within a couple of days, and I didn't feel any pain. I felt really good. And I told my OB, I said, you're an amazing surgeon, because my patients who have C-sections all complain about the pain and how long it takes to heal. And I was better, you know, I was walking around the same day, like looking for lunch, you know. And she said, I'm a great surgeon. Surgeons should have big egos, by the way. You don't want a surgeon that doesn't have a big ego, right? If you're going to cut you open, big ego is important. So anyway, she said, yeah, I'm a great surgeon, but you have an extraordinary ability to heal. I've never seen anything like it. And I still get goosebumps when I think about that, because when I had lupus, I couldn't even heal from a cold. I have a scar from getting a bump that turned into a huge, you know, abscess because I couldn't heal anything. And now nothing stays, you know, I don't get colds. I don't get sick. I don't, you know, I can heal from surgery in a day. And it's all because I changed how I ate. And so it wasn't until my son was born that I realized something really did change, that this wasn't normal for lupus. It wasn't normal for anyone. I lost all my pregnancy weight in 9 days, and I wasn't even trying. It just it was like it never happened. So my husband's taking pictures going, this is gonna be great for business, because at the time he had like these boot camps, you know, and he was like, everyone's gonna love this, right? Because he had women in his boot camp that had a kid 20 years ago and couldn't lose their pregnancy weight, you know? So he's like, this is good, did a photo shoot and everything. But that's when we realized I don't have lupus, because this is not how it works. So it's now been, this year is 14 years that I've had 0 health issues at all. I don't have lupus. I don't have any health problems. And it changed everything about my life. I mean, one, I've had 2 kids now, 2 healthy boys. I'm in my 40s and I'm not handicapped. I'm on the cover of a fitness magazine, right? And and it changed everything about the way I practice medicine. I mean, this happened while I was in my intern year. And so everything I thought I learned, 12 years of study, everything I thought I learned, it was on its head, because what I know now to be true is that our bodies are programmed to heal. They know how to heal, but we have to get out of their way. We have to feed them right. We have to treat them right, both physically and emotionally. And you can recover from things you could never imagine. So that is how I went from being what I thought would be a classical, regular Western medical doctor to actually being a healer, which is what I do today.
Wow, such a powerful story. Really awesome. And so when was it actually that you really made the connection that a major reason in it was the food, that you actually had changed your diet?
Yeah, so what happened was, after I gave birth, that's when my husband and I were both scientists. So we both went to Carnegie Mellon, and before medical school, I spent 3 years doing genetic research in disease. My husband has a master's degree in health promotion and nutrition science, all that. So for us, we immediately started going, okay, what changed? Because now we know, after having my son, definitely you don't have lupus. What happened? And the only thing we really changed was my diet. I'd always loved exercise, so I'd already been exercising. Was it love? Well, I was in love with him the whole year before I started the diet, so that didn't do it. You know, so what was it, right? And so the only thing that really changed was my diet. So then we went backwards, and at the time, I'd never heard of plant-based doctors, plant-based nutrition, any of that. It wasn't medical school. We don't even learn nutrition at all. So I didn't know that anyone had even studied this before. So I went back and went back to cellular biology, and we started consulting biologists and immunologists and going back to cellular function and looking at how is it that different foods affect cellular function, and how can certain foods impair your ability to heal? How can other foods accelerate your ability to heal? And what we realized is that we'd accidentally created the most anti-inflammatory diet really possible for a human, which is why I had gotten better so fast. And so the next step was, Can we reproduce it, right? So not everything I did was perfect for anti-inflammatory, but most of what I did was. So we kept testing it and changing it until we had something where everyone that we tested it with had dramatic improvement in their health in record time. I mean, no one comes close to the amount of rapid results I can get. That's why I call it rapid recovery, where I have people who've been sick for decades who within 4 to 6 weeks can be symptom-free or 80 to 90% symptom-free. Pain is gone and tons of energy and able to move and function in a way that they never could before. And so we kept testing it, and when we could get results every time, that's when we brought it to the people. So it really was a process of making sure, because sometimes people will just go, oh, this worked for me, here, you do this, and then it doesn't work and they don't know why. We wanted to make sure everything we did was based in consistent results. And that's what we always talk about. We don't teach theory, we teach results, and they work. And so that's what we've been doing for years now. I spent the last decade really doing recovery with folks where they come to me with all sorts of different kinds of illnesses, and they can meet with me kind of like how we're meeting now. But my favorite thing to do is rapid recovery, where I have these 6-week groups and 30 people at a time come in, and my husband and I take care of them for 6 weeks. Every single day, we look at what they ate, how much did they sleep, how did they take care of their emotional health, and we help them with anything and everything going on in their life. We make sure their nutrition's perfect. But we also, like this last week, we did a session to help 3 people who were fighting with their husbands. And if you're fighting and you're stressed, you're not going to get better, right? Because stress makes you. So we taught them how to deal with their conflicts, and they all went back and they did the thing we taught them with their husbands, and they were able to make up and move forward, right? So whatever's going on in their life, we fix it. We just make sure that, because it's 6 weeks, right? So we can't have anything slowing people down, and it's miraculous. I mean, we just make sure, because the nutrition works really well when everything else is good. Like I was already happy, add nutrition, boom, I was feeling great in a couple weeks. And so other people like that, it works like that. And other folks where they've got other emotional struggles or they don't sleep or other things, we have to fix that. And then the nutrition, I mean, the nutrition is always important, but you know, you can sabotage it by having all these other things go wrong.
Yes.
So I've just figured out that if I just help people in all these areas, feed them right and teach them how to take care of themselves emotionally, physically, then they can not only reverse their illnesses, but they can live their best life possible.
Yeah, I love that you really go into holistic practice and go beyond the food, which is definitely necessary for.
Absolutely. I mean, my board certification is psychiatry, so psychiatry and neurology. And so some people ask me if I miss psychiatry, and I say everything about what I do now is emotional work, right? Because the nutrition I teach is simple. It's really simple, but it's not easy, right? It's not easy to give up things you're addicted to. It's not easy to eat tons of vegetables all day. It's not easy to make sure you get all the foods you have or drink all your water. Yes, you're going to pee more. Yes, you might wake up to go to the bathroom. So what? You might be bloated. There's all these issues. And then, oh, what about Christmas? And what about if my grandma makes me her famous chicken soup, her feelings will be hurt and all the other crap? What if I'm in a bad mood and ice cream will make me feel better? So yes, it is simple. Like, here, eat this, don't eat that. But it's not easy. And that's why I found that while some people can just read my book, and I have, if you go on Amazon, you can see there's like tons and tons of reviews of people who just read the book and they're better. And then there's the folks who the information was great, but they're still not doing it. And that's when I say, okay, why don't you come into my group and I'll help you do it? Yeah. Because that's important, right? Information's wonderful, but if it just goes on your shelf, then it's just shelf help, right? Yeah. It's not self-help anymore, it's shelf-help. We need it to actually get off the shelf, and you gotta go in the kitchen, you gotta plug in the blender, right? You gotta do all the stuff you gotta do.
Yeah. So I would love to go a little bit back into the topic of inflammation. What is inflammation? What is it caused by? And why is it so important to be addressed?
So inflammation itself is a normal physiological function. We need inflammation. So it's more complicated than this, but I'm going to simplify it, right? So basically, there's 2 parts of our immune system, right? They're main parts. There's the inflammatory immune system and the anti-inflammatory immune system. So the inflammatory immune system is the one that gets activated when there's damage, right? So if you have a bacteria or a virus come in that creates damage, your inflammatory immune system activates to take care of that, right? Your white cells go up, inflammation goes up because you have to increase that to get rid of the damage. If you bang your knee on the corner of your bed, which I used to do consistently till I just switched from a wooden bed to an upholstered bed. Every time you do that, right, you get inflammation, right? You boom it, because that is all the inflammatory cells coming into your knee to repair the damage, right? So inflammation is an important part of the way our body works. Unfortunately, though, we have a problem now where people's anti-inflammatory immune system is not activated enough. So in order to create anti-inflammatory immune cells, we have to eat the right foods, and most people don't. And our inflammatory immune system is overactivated. So not only does it get activated when you get a virus or bacteria or when you bang your knee, but it also gets activated when you eat things that damage you. And so there are certain things that people eat. I hesitate to call them food, but people call them foods that you eat that causes damage and therefore inflammation. And so meat, dairy products, processed foods, oils, they create damage. And so if you are creating damage, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, late night, over and over again, your inflammatory immune system is activated all day long. That is not healthy. And so if your inflammatory immune system is constantly activated and you don't have the anti-inflammatory immune system capable of bringing it down, that can actually trigger your genes for chronic illness. So all of us have genes that are different from each other, right? So when I have chronic inflammation, I get autoimmune disease. Other people with the same trigger, same foods, same habits, they would get heart disease, which is the #1 killer of people, right? Mm-hmm. Diabetes, cancer. So we all have these genes, but they can be triggered. And the great thing that they don't teach you in medical school is they can be untriggered, right? So I had lupus for 12 years, untriggered those genes, don't have lupus for 14 years. Yay, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm seeing with other people. The most genetic disease there is type 2 diabetes. If you have 2 parents with type 2 diabetes or even 1 parent with type 2 diabetes, you're pretty much going to get it, right? But if you are a vegan triathlete, it doesn't matter if both parents have type 2 diabetes genes, you're never going to get it, right? So it's a combination of the genes and the trigger, and chronic inflammation will trigger your genes for illness. And so that's what we're seeing in our society, is that the nutrition in America and many of the other countries in this world now that got westernized, the diet is constantly full of processed foods, which trigger your immune system. Your body doesn't even know what that stuff is, right? So it's treating it like an infection. And then tons of meat and saturated fats. I mean, I was thinking about my grandmother in Poland. She didn't even have a refrigerator growing up. And so, one piece of meat might make soup for the family, right? Or, it might be something that they eat on occasion, but all day long, they'd go to the market every day and eat fresh vegetables all day long, right? Mm-hmm. In our country or in America, I don't know where people are listening from, but in America, people eat meat and cheese and eggs all day long. It's breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, everything's got cheese on it, right? You can't order a salad without them putting some whey in the dressing or something, right? So people's diets are so horrible, and they're rarely ever eating any fresh food. I mean, the #1 healing food is raw vegetables. And when I ask people what raw vegetables they eat, they look at me like, there's a piece of lettuce on my burger. Does ketchup count? It's horrifying. So they're not eating the foods they need to heal, and all day long from childhood. Babies are put on formula instead of their mother's breast, and they're told that both are fine. They're not fine. So for many people, from the moment they're born, they are given inflammatory foods over and over and over again, and then they live these sedentary, stressful lifestyles, and all of those come together and trigger these illnesses. And, when I had lupus at 16, I was pretty young. Usually it's in the 20s to 40s. And nowadays, my youngest client with lupus is 3. And I have a large number that are 3, 8, 11, 14, and wasn't heard of when I was in medical school, and now it's common. When I was in medical school, it was juvenile onset diabetes and adult onset diabetes. Now it's type 1 and type 2 because the type 2 is being found in children now, right? We've got children with heart disease now. So all the illnesses are worse than ever because the nutrition is absolutely horrendous. And the good news about this is we can fix it. And that's what I do now. That's what I dedicate myself to all day long, whether I'm teaching free classes or I'm writing books or I'm teaching on stage or I'm seeing clients one-on-one. It's all about there's hope and you can take control, but you've got to be the one to do it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so what are major aspects of your hyper-nourishing nutrition protocol?
So I call it hyper-nourishment because what we're doing is we're not just supplying good nutrients, we're oversupplying them, right? So it's like if you're thirsty and you're otherwise well hydrated, you can take a sip of water. But if you've been in the desert and you're completely dehydrated, you probably need an IV, right? So for most folks, they are so malnourished that just eating a little bit more vegetables, a little bit more water, eating some omega-3s to build up their anti-inflammatory immune system, it's just not enough, right? So I call it hypernourishment, in that I take the most healing foods on the planet, the most anti-inflammatory foods you can possibly eat, and I oversupply them. I tell you to eat so much of it that I know you get enough, right? So when it comes to the healing foods, you want to eat raw vegetables, especially greens and cruciferous vegetables. They are the most powerful because we're trying to use all the nutrients in plants that are really the best medicine, right? The original medicine came from plants. But you need a lot of the medicine, right? The small pills, those are potent, right? But the plants nowadays, I mean, farming has just depleted the soil. There's not that much nutrition in a lot of plants, and especially if you can't afford organic. So we need a lot. So I'm telling people to eat tons of raw vegetables, at least a half a cup a day of omega-3s, flax and chia seeds. And I'm trying to get them to drink a gallon of water a day, or at least 96 ounces. And they're just like, whoa, this is a lot. And so what I found was there's a way to get all those healing foods in that's a lot easier and less overwhelming than trying to like eat a pound of greens a day. And that's why I teach people to make green smoothies. And I actually give out free recipes for those. We have a website my husband and I created called SmoothieShred.com, and there's free recipes there. You don't have to like put your email address or anything. And we show recipes of how you can take your blender and you can fill it 3/4 of the way with just leafy greens, kale, spinach, stuff like that, which is what you really want, right? But most people don't want to eat it. Fill it up in your blender and then put in a handful of chia or flax seeds, and then put in some fruit, like whatever fruit tastes good to you. Bananas, pineapple, mango. It can be frozen. I don't care, because we're not using the fruit for nutrition. Put water in there, blend it up. And the cool thing is, even though it's 25% fruit, it tastes delicious. It really tastes good. And so I found that so many people who have never eaten a vegetable, they live off McDonald's. Literally, I've had folks live off McDonald's who would never eat a salad, will drink a smoothie. It tastes like fruit. It's not that bad. I drink them all day long. This is how I have this level of energy, right? So, you know, we drink them all day long and you get nourished. And it's so cool because most people would never eat that volume of vegetables ever. Put a straw in it, it goes right down, no problem. So I've gotten good over the years at finding ways to help people get this in. But that's really what hypernourishment is about. It's saying, all right, you are so depleted. We need to go into overdrive to try to get you as nourished as possible. And the more nourished I can get people, the faster they recover their health.
That's powerful. And so what would you say to people, for example, like, because their smoothies are such a big aspect of your protocol, that live in colder climates and don't do so well with like cold aspects like mangoes or bananas in their smoothies? How would you assist them?
That they don't have access to mangoes? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, because like I know a lot of people who don't. What?
Frozen at Costco. We go to Costco and buy. I don't know where they're definitely not local. But I buy bags of frozen mangoes and pineapple and cherries and stuff like that from Costco. We use super ripe fresh bananas, but you know, there's no specific way you have to do it. You can use the fruits that are local to you or that you can get in the supermarket. I mean, the most important part is it's a way to get the vegetables in. And I have clients right now. I mean, one of the reasons why I switched to doing everything online is in a given day, I will see someone from India and then the UK and then Australia. And so, you know, and so I've heard every possible excuse and issue, and they can all do it. One of the things that comes up with the cold climbs is sometimes people say like, oh, my smoothie's cold and I'm cold. Okay, so put a sweater on, turn up the fire, and drink. I mean, what do you want from me, right? I said it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So it's a simple protocol, but you don't have to drink it in a smoothie. You can eat it. Like, there's no reason why you can't sit down and eat it as a salad. It's just more convenient as a smoothie. So I chose to live somewhere warm. I now live in Houston, where I prefer heat at all times, but we do have a little bit of winter. And I have a fireplace right there, turn on the fireplace and put on a sweater and drink my smoothie. Because for me, I need the nutrition, and it would be very strange if right now talking to you, I was eating a salad or some broccoli dipped in guacamole or something, but it's not that odd to like take a sip of a drink and keep talking, right? So for me, having the smoothies available makes it so easy.
So convenient, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I first healed, I didn't have smoothies. I literally ate a pound of raw vegetables a day, and my jaws were so strong I could have bitten off a car door. But it was, you know, it was work, and I literally would have vegetable trays on my desk at work, and when patients would come in, I'd say, come on in, have some veggies, and we'd eat together, because I needed to keep having the food coming in, and for many of them, they'd never even had fresh vegetables before. So I worked with the homeless for many years. So it was kind of a win-win, but it's way easier to drink them. So I find that if you're coming up with reasons why you can't, it goes deeper than you really needing help with that issue. A lot of times when people see me, if they start coming up with reasons they can't, I go into why they're not motivated. Because when you're motivated, there is no resistance anymore. It's like, I'm going to do this. How am I going to do it, right? So if someone says, I live in a cold climate, what do? I'll say, okay, cool, let's come up with ideas. Versus, oh, I can't eat right because I'm going on vacation. Like, really? Okay, I guess you don't want to heal, right? And that's the truth. And I call people on it because, you know, that expression where there's a will, there's a way is true, right? When you're motivated, you make it happen. So I have people who do that, and they have Raynaud's and their hands get cold. So they put their gloves on, you know, and they do it, right? So it's not really that big of an issue, I think. But again, if you don't want to drink it, you can eat it too. It's really, it'll work both ways. One's just easier, I think.
What are like self-sabotaging mechanisms that often come into play whenever people begin this journey or that get into the way that you have experienced a lot?
New question. Yeah, so self-sabotage is a huge thing, and it's actually one of the biggest things that I deal with in my rapid recovery group, because people often don't know they're sabotaging themselves. And I'm a shrink, and I've been doing this a long time, and you can't fool me, right? But people often fool themselves. So common things will be people will they'll do just below the minimums and tell themselves it's good enough, and I'll be like, you know, the minimum means that's the least amount you can have and expect results. So when you get less than the minimum, you're not on the plan, right? So sometimes people come to me and say like, oh, I've been doing this plan and I'm just not getting better. And then I talk to them and they're not doing it. They're not getting in the amounts that I told them to, but they're telling themselves it's okay. So that's one way people will sabotage themselves. And that's a common issue in all areas, right? Where people will say, oh, I tried every diet. I've tried working out. It doesn't work for me. And really, they didn't give it all they had. And so they kind of let themselves down. So you didn't go all out. So for me, I know if I see something as a minimum, I always go past it. If the minimum is 96 ounces of water, then I would never get less than 100, right? And why would you, right? But I've seen people post 92 ounces of water, and I'm like, that's a shot glass. Like you could have just done a shot and then written down the number and it would have been right. So that can be an issue. Someone in this current group, she will do everything right, but only one thing off. Like she'll have a spoonful of food that was off protocol, right? Or taste something that her parents made. And then she'll won't get the grade for the food that day. And I had her do an assignment. What's good about being sick, right? Because a lot of people get scared about healing because being sick has been a part of their identity for so long. That the idea of a new identity, new expectations is terrifying. And so they will just slightly do sneaky surreptitious things that doesn't look like a big deal to other people, but I know it's a big deal. So one bite, why would you do that, right? And so we talked about it. Her issues are, she's always had a lot of stress and was always a perfectionist. And so once she got sick, she was off the hook. She didn't have to be an achiever anymore because she's sick. So it's like, oh, you're sick. You don't have to do stuff. It's okay. And if she gets better, maybe everyone's going to expect her to be a high achiever again. So it's easier to just slow it down a little bit, get everything else right, but then just do one thing wrong to kind of slow it down. Let's not get better too fast. So that's another thing I see people do is they'll just do one thing off. They'll be like, I'm mostly doing it. Oh, it doesn't count that I ate that little bit of meat or I did this or that. And it's like, yeah, of course it does. Your body knows. There's no cheating. Your body knows you did it. You know, you didn't get away with something, right? So so that's something else see people do is they'll tell me, like someone just wrote to me, I'm doing your protocol 100%, except for the meat. I still eat meat. I'm like, it's not a thing. You can't do it 100% and eat meat. It doesn't work, right? So but they tell themselves these things. So I'll see that be an issue. Those are the most subtle ways that people will do that. And then a lot of times people will make excuses. They'll say, oh, I didn't drink my water today because I had to take a road trip and I didn't want to have to stop to go to the bathroom. I'll say, wow, so if you'll only heal if it's convenient? And they'll go, oh, okay. You know, like it's not convenient or easy deal. I would say, did I mislead you that this was going to be easy or convenient? Because it's not. It's worth it. I'll tell you 1,000% it's worth it. I know it myself. I've been there. But you have to be fully committed. So that's something that I think the rapid recovery programs give people that they don't have when they're on their own is like constant feedback, because I don't let people get away with sabotaging themselves. And I don't believe their stories. You know, they tell themselves stories, and I'm like, yes, and your actions are going to make you sicker. I had someone get upset with me once because I said she sabotaged herself. And she said, that wasn't, I don't like that word. I didn't sabotage myself. I was just listening to my body, you know, because she was eating all fruit and not the vegetables. I said, no, sabotage means you took yourself away from your goal. If your goal is to heal lupus, then not doing what I say takes you away from that goal. And that is sabotage, whether you want to call it that or not. And I don't say that to be cruel. I say that because I want you to heal. And you're not going to heal if I don't help you face what you're doing. So that's a lot of what I do in the group. It's like, yes, the beginning is eat this, eat more of this. Yeah. And I do that too. But a lot of it is keeping them on plan,
on track,
helping them stop stopping themselves. When their period comes, oh my God, you know, then we got a whole new thing. It's my period and I don't feel like eating a smoothie. All right, let's talk about it. Let's use some exercise. Let's do other things. So problem solving in the moment, dealing with marital issues, dealing with whatever comes up, so that they, because a lot of people do that too. I had a fight with my husband, so I ate chocolate. Why do you hurt yourself after he hurts you? Oh crap, right? So we have to keep working through those things so that there's no longer a reason to go backwards, right? Anything you do that takes you backwards, you're choosing that. So I help people keep choosing themselves. And if they fall down, okay, it's a perfect moment to get right back up again and keep going. And that's what we do. So yeah, I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people, is deciding that they're not going to hold back and that they truly do want to heal. That whatever it is, even though it's the unknown, I want that. And then I'll figure the rest out later. You know, you're allowed to not be a perfectionist. You're allowed to say no to going out even if you're not sick. You're allowed to live the way you want to live, and you can go after that, and you don't have to hold on to illness in any way to have that.
And a lot of people, I think, get that as well, sometimes confused with other information that comes in that might be different from what maybe your protocol is teaching. Have you had a lot of experience like that too, that they then just get muddled up with all the information that's out there, and then, you know, go on a different trail and then try that instead? Or
absolutely, I see people do that. So, you know, there's so much information out there, and a lot of it is really bad information. You know, it's fascinating to me, for example, that as we've had more and more incredible research that shows that plant-based nutrition can reverse diseases. Nothing else works like this. Like, truly remarkable, you know, that you can reverse end-stage diseases using plant-based nutrition. At the same time that is just flooding the research, right? We're having these other diets that are just as popular that are the opposite, right? Like the carnivore diets out there, which we are not carnivores. Like, I always don't. So the guy checking me out at the supermarket the other day, you know, I couldn't help it. I said something about being plant-based, and he said, I'm a carnivore. And I was like, oh, you're a confused herbivore. You're not a carnivore. Like, you're not
you're confused herbivore.
You're a confused herbivore. Yeah. I mean, what are you going to go? I'm like, go run outside with your big claws and your big teeth and go catch an animal and then eat the whole thing, head to tail, intestines, everything. Like, yeah, you're not a carnivore, you know, you're a confused herbivore that's into, you know, eating dead things, right? It's not really what you are, but people think that way, right? So they have this carnivore diet that's getting just as much attention, right? But it's not because it's research approved. It's not because it's scientific. It's because there's a crap load of money in that, right? So the meat industry wants people to be on the carnivore diet, and egg industry and all these other industries, they're really excited about that stuff. So it's like, the more you try to push the right information, if someone Googles, they're going to find the opposite. And when you find the opposite things at the same time, what do? You do nothing, right? That's what ambivalence truly is. Ambivalence is kind of wanting two things equal amounts, right? So if one person's saying you should eat only meat and someone else is saying you should eat only vegetables, like, oh, well, whatever, I'll just eat what I feel like, right? It causes ambivalence. Is like this frozenness of not knowing what to do because everything seems the same, right? Anytime I'll hear someone say, yeah, whatever, you know, next year we'll probably hear it's fine. And it's like, no, that's not truly what's happening in the body. So that's one of the reasons why I teach my information for free. So everything that's in my book, Goodbye Lupus, I teach that online, usually about every 2 months. It's a lot of work because it's about 7 hours. Each class is about an hour, but I stay on live to do Q&As with people. And the Q&A is usually like 2 to 3 hours. I want to make people understand the information. It's so important to me because I truly want them to be healthy. And so it's worth my time to help people, to help them, because there's so much conflicting information. They need to understand the truth, right? So that's why I teach that for free too. And that way they can see, hey, listen, I teach the entire protocol for free. The only thing people ever pay me for is my time if they want to hire me to hold their hand to do that. You know, that is what I do now for my work. But the information is free because people need the information and they're dying from the wrong information. So yes, I do spend some time with that. And usually what I tell people is, if I see it's an issue, I made a YouTube video about this recently, that there's some people who are addicted to searching now, where they find an answer and then they Google again and they find something else, and they Google again and find something else. And then they also become ambivalent or overwhelmed and they don't know what to do. And I say, you got to stop Googling. I will actually forbid some people to Google. I said, no more, no more. All right, you found the answer. I'm going to help you. You're going to get your health back. You've got to stop spending your day online, because first of all, you don't need any more information. I know I can help you get better. Second, your life should be about something else. If you're online Googling all day about your illness, then you're not actually living your life, right? Let your illness take up the 5 minutes you need it to make your smoothie, make your food, take your medicine if you need to, and then ignore it after that and go enjoy the fact that you're still here. You know, it's springtime, smell flowers, look at the birds. Yesterday, my husband and my kids and I spent like 20 minutes watching the birds in the backyard feed her babies, you know, and we were just like, oh, you know, we went upstairs so we could see into the tree. Like, live your life, be with the people you love, but don't spend your life searching, especially once you found an answer. Because that's the other thing, when you talked about people kind of sabotaging themselves, sometimes they will start the plan and then they'll kind of switch to another plan and switch to another plan, and then they'll think they tried everything. But they didn't really, because they didn't stick to it long enough to actually have it work. So I will tell people that I'm like, just let go of the Googling, trust the process, you know, and I'll help you get to the finish line. But I had somebody who, you know, he was doing amazing. He had lupus nephritis, he had hair loss, he had lost a ton of weight. His kidneys were really struggling. And I got him on my hyper-nourishing plan where he was only eating healing food. And within 6 months, every single lab was normal. His kidneys were normal. All the lupus antibodies were gone. He was super, super healthy. He looked great. And he did a follow-up appointment with me a while later. And all of a sudden he didn't look good. He had gained his weight back, everything. And I saw him and his cheeks were like sunken in. I said, what did you do? You don't look good, you know? And sorry, I'm a New Yorker. Sometimes I'm blunt, you know, like, you don't look good, but what's wrong with you? And he said, oh, I read about fats being unhealthy. So I stopped eating all avocados. I stopped my omega-3s. And he looked like heck. And I said, I didn't tell you to do that. Why would you do that? I said, you just healed your disease. Why in the world would you be searching for new information and change something that worked for you? And he goes, I don't know. I just searching. I said, no more Google, and you go back to eating your healthy fats. And yes, ma'am. And next time I saw him, he looked normal again. He was filled in, he was glowing, he was healthy. And that's one of the biggest issues that are in the vegan world even right now, is people think all fats are bad, and they're not. Oils are bad, you know, saturated fats are bad, but avocados are wonderful. You know, flax and chia seeds are wonderful. They don't make you fat, they make you healthy. They help your cholesterol, they help your metabolism. So stuff like that, where I'll see people sabotage something that's working perfectly because they read a new thing. So yeah, it's definitely an issue. And I think it's wonderful that the internet has so much information, because that's how a lot of people find me. And it's also destructive, because how do you know what to think or believe or what to do? At some point you have to stop and you have to try and you have to give it all you have and not keep switching channels, you know? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you mentioned already, like, the omega-3s. Why are they so important, and what's a great source to get them from?
Omega-3s are so important. Oh my God, omega-3s. So omega-3s, they have so many benefits. It's an entire class, all right? So I'll give you the short version of it. Okay, so number one, omega-3s are the ingredient that creates your anti-inflammatory immune system. So that part of your immune system I told you about that cleans up the inflammation, that's created by omega-3s. And most people don't eat any. So they eat tons of stuff that raise inflammation. They are eating meat and oils and saturated fat and processed foods, chips, all that stuff. And then they have no ability to clear the inflammation out. So sickness happens really fast, and it takes a really long time for it to go away, right? Mm-hmm. So omega-3s create your anti-inflammatory immune system. So that's really important. And that's why when I get people on hyper-nourishment, I eliminate all the inflammatory stuff and I start getting them on super high doses of the anti-inflammatory, because I want them to get better faster. And it's something that's missing from a lot of plant-based programs. All these people are trying to call me now, so let me just, there we go. So it's nonstop over here, sorry. So that's one thing, really, really important. That alone should be the biggest reason people should be eating tons of omega-3s. Second is omega-3s incorporate themselves into your cellular membrane. So every membrane in your body has fats in it. And it's because the liquid on the inside of your cells is water-based and the liquid on the outside of your cells is water-based. So the reason you don't dissolve is because you have a membrane around your cells that's made of fat that keeps the water out, right? Pretty cool. Now, the fats in your membrane, it's called a phospholipid membrane, but in the membrane, you're supposed to have omega-3s in the membrane. It keeps your membranes really flexible. And that makes it so if you have a signal that comes to the cell, like maybe the signal is to release fat because you were on the treadmill, or maybe the signal is to improve your mood, or whatever it is, the signal comes. If your cell's flexible, it can receive the signal like a catcher's mitt. But if you don't eat omega-3s and instead you eat lots of omega-6 because you're eating animal products, processed foods, and things like that, omega-6s are really rigid. And so you could have all these wonderful signals coming to your cells, but it bounces off the cell and the cell never sees it. So in order to have good communication from your cells, you need to have omega-3s. Now that's also why omega-3s create a fast metabolism, because a metabolism is really your body's ability to change, right? So if I work out, do I lose weight or not? If you work out and you still can't lose weight, you have a slow metabolism. And I don't care if it's the opposite. If I try to lift heavy weights, I can't build muscle. That's also a slow metabolism. You should be able to change your body at will. Do I get a flu that lasts 2 weeks, or am I better within 24 to 48 hours, which is how my family is, right? So that's all metabolism. So if your cells are really receptive because they're flexible and full of omega-3s, everything you want your body to do, it does it faster. So that's another really important reason. It's also the primary fatty acid that's involved in brain function. So if you have issues with memory or mood, omega-3s, or attention deficit, for example, all of that, omega-3s are the answer to that. So omega-3s are the most important thing people should be putting into their bodies, and most people ignore it. And in fact, the fat phobic movement is telling people not to have it, which freaks me out. So I see a lot of folks who have been plant-based, some of them for decades, who were doing well initially because they stopped eating animal products, so they felt better, but then they developed autoimmune disease. Then they developed skin issues or hair issues or other problems, and it was because they weren't getting the fats. I add the omega-3s, I add the raw vegetables in because oftentimes they're not doing those, and boom, within 2 weeks, all their issues are gone. So it's really, really, really important. The best sources are flax seeds and chia seeds. You want to get whole seeds, not the pre-ground stuff, because they are very easily oxidated from the air. So as soon as you get air exposed to the inside, oxidation happens. They're not as potent. So if you're going to grind them up right before you eat them, not buying them pre-ground. You can also buy, it's the only oil I can promote, a cold pressed flaxseed oil. You can use that as well, and that's all omega-3 fatty acid, and that'll work too. And you can literally just put that right into your smoothie, and that's the easiest way to consume them. You can also make like chia pudding, or some people put it on their salads, or they'll use it in their dressings or stuff like that. But very, very important that people consume that, or else they're not going to fully heal. And that's why I say people get better, but they're not fully healed. Omega-3s are usually the reason.
Mm-hmm. And what opinion do you have about EPA and DHA getting enough from the omega-3s, or do people need to take an algae supplement as well?
Yeah, so the way your body uses the omega-3s from flax and chia seeds, it's a source of ALA, and your body can break down ALA into EPA and DHA. Now, there was information that I learned it back in the day that your body doesn't efficiently break down ALA into EPA and DHA, and it won't work. But the reason for that is that your body uses the same enzyme to break down ALA as it does to break down the omega-6 sources. So if you're eating tons of omega-6 every day, like most people do, you're eating processed foods, you're eating animal fats, that enzyme is so busy over there that there's not enough of it to break down the ALA because the enzyme prefers the other pathway. But if people aren't eating large sources of omega-6, like they wouldn't be on my plan, then you have plenty of that enzyme left over to break down ALA efficiently and have enough EPA and DHA. Now, if someone wants to take an algae supplement, I don't see a problem with it, except that most algae supplements that I've seen, they dissolve the algae oil in sunflower oil or safflower oil, which is omega-6. And I don't know who the brainiac is that came up with that idea, but it totally ruins the whole point of it, right? Because you just dissolved the omega-3 in an omega-6, so now you don't have as much omega-3. So if you're going to use an algae supplement, then make sure that it's not dissolved in sunflower oil or safflower oil. And realize that usually the doses are pretty low, and it's also expensive. You buy that supplement, it's expensive. Whereas I can go to Sprouts Market and they have bins of flax seeds, and I can buy a pound of flax seeds for $2.40. A pound. So I think it makes more sense economically too, but you can do both. It just hasn't been necessary. I mean, I don't take any algae supplements. None of my patients or clients have taken them, and they've reversed their diseases just fine. So it doesn't seem to be necessary, but I don't think it's an issue.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. So one more question before we get out. So I think like a lot of people still think whenever you go on a plant-based diet, not enough protein. Can you bust the myth here?
Myth busting. Okay. Yeah. So, this is I call it nutritional mythology, right? There's a lot of nutritional mythology out there, and a lot of it is promoted by industries that want that mythology to continue, right? I mean, when you watch a commercial with meat or eggs, it's all about how, protein and all this stuff. So they want that to persist, but it's really not true. There's protein in everything. There's amino acids that your body uses to build protein in every single food that you eat, including spinach or kale or broccoli or anything else. And we get enough protein for our health just by eating our vegetables. You don't need to do anything to promote protein for health. The only time you want to even consider looking at something like a protein macronutrient like that would be a bodybuilder, right? Where they're trying to force themselves to change what their body looks like. And bodybuilding in itself requires that you eat some inflammatory foods to trigger the muscle growth. So I don't recommend people do it while they're trying to heal. But other than that, it's really not even something that should be on your mind. And if you want to think of it another way, this visually, people often understand it better, is that the largest land animals there are, when you look at land animals, the largest animals what's the largest land animal you can think of?
Like an elephant.
An elephant, right? Elephants, silverback apes, cows, right? They're huge, right? Then you look at the largest carnivore on the planet. What's the largest carnivore you can think of? Like, I don't know, a lion or something? Lion, yeah. And when you look at them, they don't look buff. They have their bones sticking out of their shoulder blades, right? When they walk, right? Mm-hmm. So carnivores actually aren't as big and muscular as herbivores are. And when you eat an animal to get the protein for your muscles, you're eating an herbivore. That's where the cow got his muscles from eating grass all day, right? So the chicken got its muscle from eating seeds and grass, right? So if we can skip the middle cow, right, and we can go right to the source, we can be very muscular. I mean, my husband is very big, muscular guy, and he eats only plants, right? So you don't need that. And in fact, what he's figured out and what his book talks about is that he discovered, because I had to convince him to go plant-based, because he had already built a career on being a fitness guy and being full of muscle. And he's like, I agree with you that this is the right way to live, but I'm afraid I'll lose my career. I'll become some skinny vegan, and then I won't be able to do fitness anymore, right? And so what I said is, if anyone can figure out how to build muscle on a vegan diet, it would be you.
Ooh, that was a big motivation.
Oh, and he's like, you bet I can. And so the next day he went vegan, and he figured it out, right? And it took some time to figure it out. Eventually, first he tried replacing meat with like processed vegan meat, and he actually got worse because that's horrible. It's processed. It doesn't work, right? But he figured it out. And what he discovered is when you eat plants, you can build muscle faster than when you eat meat. And that blew his mind. He can build muscle faster with less than half the protein than when he ate meat. And he couldn't believe it. And he's been doing that for years now, because when you eat plants, you don't have as much inflammation, so you recover faster. So you can actually do the same workout the next day instead of waiting 4 days to recover because you're so inflamed, right? So he's discovered it's actually better for bodybuilding to eat less protein and have it all be from plants, and you can build muscles faster. And you look at the silverback ape, like they have the biggest muscles, right? They're like, they got abs and this, and all they do all day is eat leaves and a little bit of fruit. And that's what I teach people to do. Eat mostly like leaves and vegetables, a little bit of fruit, and you're gonna have a dramatic change in your body. So it really, when it comes down to it, it's not about beliefs, it's about results, right? And the truth is, when you eat a plant-based diet, there is no deficiencies that happen. It's the opposite, right? When people eat meat-based diets and processed food diets, they are deficient in minerals, they're deficient in vitamins, they're deficient in omega-3s, they're deficient in everything. And when you start eating plants, that's when people suddenly worry about your nutrition. But suddenly you're nourished, right? Because vitamins and minerals, they come from plants. So for the first time in your life, you're getting nutrition that way, and you're getting all your macronutrients too. You can get your protein, and it's all carbs, right? And fats and all those things from plant sources while healing your body at the same time. So once you're plant-based, it's really a choice. Do I want to be a muscle guy? You want to look like my husband? Would you rather be on the skinny side like me? How do you feel like looking? And your body will do what you ask it to because it's healthy.
Wonderful. So how can people find you? How can they work with you? You're invited to share.
Where am I? How do you find me? So the easiest place to find me is goodbyelupus.com. It's called goodbyelupus.com because that was my book. That was my original story, right? So I wrote my book back in 2015, and I didn't even tell anyone I wrote it, and it became a bestseller. It was like, it was shocking to me, but I became known as Goodbye Lupus from that point on. And so even though I help people with anything from heart disease to diabetes or autoimmune disease, goodbyelupus.com will take you there. And you can also, if you want free information, who doesn't like free information, my husband and I created a website called smoothieshred.com. And I'm sure you'll write it down for everyone, how to smoothieshred.com. And if you go to that website, we have free smoothie recipes. We have free videos to educate people on how to exercise for health and for better fitness, and how to eat better and all the things they need. And if you want to, you can join our Facebook group from there. And we have a Facebook community, thousands of people all over the world who are just trying to eat better. You're not required to be vegan to be there. You're just required to add your smoothies, to add what you're missing, and start living a better life. Because what we found is when people start adding what they're missing, once you've experienced how good it feels to be on a smoothie, suddenly you don't want that burger anymore, because you eat the burger and you feel, so we encourage people to start taking those steps. So for people who are just looking for that kind of information and recipes, that's a great place to start. And then that's also a great place either on Facebook or through my website or Smoothie Shred. I always announce there when I have my free classes, and they'll be coming up probably by the end of this month. When I'm doing my rapid recovery group, that takes all my time, because 30 people that I have to obsess over for 6 weeks. So when I'm done obsessing with them, then I usually take a couple days, and then I start doing the classes, and I do my teaching. So if you go to Facebook, I'm Goodbye Lupus. You go to Instagram, I'm Goodbye Lupus. I'll always announce my free classes there, and follow me there too, and on YouTube, because every day I'm spreading free information, because I earnestly want to help everybody get their health back and live the best life they possibly can.
That's wonderful. And you have a free gift to share as well, right?
Yes. So I'm all about teaching. So my gifts always come from there. So right now, if you go to goodbyelupus.com and you scroll to the bottom of the page, I have a free class there called Boost Your Brain Power. It's a really popular class, and I talk about how to improve your mood, your memory, and even increase your brain size, all naturally, completely naturally, through food and other activities. Because who doesn't want a bigger, better brain? So that is totally free. And if they scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, they'll have access to right underneath the interview. So whenever people watch the interview, they can go right into it.
And you'll see on my website too, on the media page, there's also a lot of free videos, and you can see my new article I just published in the Journal of Disease Reversal, where I did reversal of lupus nephritis and stage kidney failure in people. And so you can see all that stuff. Everything's on my website. We're still working on improving it. We just switched over on the servers, but hopefully all the links are working the way they should be. And you can find everything there. But smoothieshred.com is also a great place, because that will also take you to my website, and you got all the recipes there too. So maybe we can put both links there, and you can get, when my husband and I are committed to spreading as much free information as we can, because I always say, I want you to always have your life. And he says, I want you to always have your wife. So
wonderful. So much free content. And my absolute last question, because I'm asking that every expert on the summit, what is your personal message of hope to the audience, if you have one?
Personal message of hope. Goodness, I feel like that is all of my message is hope. Well, there's a few things that come to mind. So one would be that, I don't believe any of us were born to suffer. I believe that we all were born with a purpose and with a gift. And we don't know what the gift is or what it's going to come from, but usually the gift comes from our greatest pain. And so I was just teaching my son. My older son tends to worry a little bit, which I find adorable, because my husband and I don't worry at all. So I think that's just his way of trying to be different, is, hey guys, don't forget there could be a downside. And so he was telling me about how sometimes he worries about things not working out. And I told him, I said, it's only when things go wrong that we discover who we are, that we discover what greatness we were meant for. It's kind of like when a caterpillar ends up inside of the cocoon, at some point he realizes it's dark and he's alone and there's no food and he can just die in there, or he can fight like crazy for his life. He doesn't know what's on the other side. He doesn't even know why he's doing it or what's going to happen. But if you fight like crazy, that's when he discovers he can fly. I didn't know when I was sick what would come of this. I just knew that life meant more to me than anything else, and purpose and passion, and that I would find a reason to be happy I woke up every day, even if I had chemo or something else going on. So it's really important to remember that whatever it is you're suffering with, it's not who you are, and it's not what you're meant to be, and it's not what you are going to do, but you do have to fight, and you have to do everything you can to take control of your life, to find your happiness, your purpose, and your passion, but to also eat right and take care of your body, because when you do that, that's when you're going to discover the greatest potency of the gifts that you were truly born with.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And thank you so much for your huge dedication and devotion for really helping and assisting people to heal, and for changing the system.
I'm working on it.
Yes. So, and thank you all for watching and joining us today. And please stay tuned for more content on how to eat to improve your health, empower your spirit, and thrive with the planet. See you. Bye.